The woman was placed on the floor and the Lord knelt beside her, bowed to Zhang Xuan and said that he had brought his wife to him. He asked him to save his dear Yu Zhou. Zhang replied that it was fine. He stood up, thinking that this was much more serious than he thought. He had only touched the blood jade before, knowing that it could cause great harm to an ordinary person. He thought it would be enough to destroy the jade and keep the sick person away from its influence. He hadn't expected her to be in a deep coma, however it might be too late. He thought he could ask her to take a couple strokes, then immediately there would be a book and ways to cure her ailments. But with what they have, what should he do? Lord Lin looked at him fearfully, asking if his wife could still be saved. Zhang replied, telling him not to worry for now. Is he looking at her? And he thought to himself that he had already publicized his abilities so much. He can't let it go to waste. First client will make him all the glory. His whole reputation as a Grand Master would go down the drain. He started mentally summoning flaws, but nothing worked. He paced back and forth in his mind, and in his mind he was thinking that he could not lose everything he had worked so hard to achieve. But then he stopped abruptly, remembering that there was a way for both the living and the dead. He crouched down beside the woman and earnestly told the Lord to help him feel his wife. The man darkened and the surprised Sun Qian showed a finger up, thinking that it sounded very bossy, telling the husband that his spouse should be felt. Zhang said okay, he will do it himself, and the Lord asked gloomily, does he really want to touch? Clenching his teeth, he thought about the fact that he wanted to touch his wife even without his consent. A Grandmaster who would do such a thing to an unconscious person is an animal. He was about to shout, but he saw that Zhang had touched the woman's wrist. Lord Lin asked to himself, what did touch mean in this sense? Why didn't he just say he wanted to check her pulse? Wiping the sweat from his face, Sun Tian thought about how the Lord was being too direct. Who on earth uses the word in such a meaning? Why would one speak so obscurely? Even he was confused. After touching the woman, Zhang finally understood. Zhang Huang recalled that when he was competing with Mo Yan, who was able to find out information about an item just by touching it, the library automatically prepared the right book. This woman can't move. Perhaps it would work the same way with her. Holding her wrist, Zhang was able to enter the Heaven's Way library and read in the book that it was Yu Zhou, 43 years old, resides in the capital city of Tianquan Kingdom, wife of the chief of Ling Tianyu trading firm at the second rank. Disadvantages. First, has very weak meridians, making it impossible to improve with more complex methods. It is almost unrealistic to create and control chi energy. Secondly, there are no cultivation talents, which affects one's perception of the spiritual energy around him. He then read the 8th paragraph, which stated that the protective energy sheath had been destroyed under the bloody southern jade energy, causing the meridians to be blocked. He smiled slightly, thinking that if it was about the meridians, then everything was simplified. Zhang placed the woman's hand, and her husband, asking what was wrong with her. Grandmaster stood up, turned away and replied so that his wives could be easily healed. Lord Lin bowed low, asking the Lord to save her. To this, Zhang replied that he was here to help him. If he wasn't going to do that, he wouldn't have even stopped by to see him. Here he paused and the man said that it doesn't matter. Let him ask for whatever he wants. For the sake of his wife, he is willing to become a poor man. Zhang looked at him and said that his wife had suffered from the effects of jade for too long. It is unlikely to cure her in a short time. It would take about 10 or 9 days, and every day one must take medicine that is prepared from expensive herbs. The man immediately exclaimed that if he needed herbs, he could buy them right away. But then he saw the grim face of the Grandmaster and felt embarrassed, thinking to himself that wouldn't he reveal the Grandmaster's secret recipe if he really went to buy the herbs himself. The Grandmaster who called this a mild ailment must have his own secret way of dealing with it. He almost ogled. The man scratched the back of his head awkwardly, saying that he didn't know much about herbs, so he had to ask the man for help in this matter. Zhang replied that he did, steeled the needle and said that they would now do the initial procedure. He touched the needle to the top of the woman's head, and she immediately rose, sitting down on the floor. Her husband held her up and then looked at Zhang's back, thinking he was really good. A simple procedure, but his wife woke up. Meanwhile, Zhang was irritated, thinking, what has he done? How can he get money from him if the progress is going to be so fast? Meanwhile, the husband and wife looked at each other excitedly. Lord Lin pointed at the man and told his wife that it was Grandmaster Zhang Xuan. He had saved her. Helping the woman to her feet, the Lord thanked the Lord. Zhang replied that it was a small thing. She woke up on the first day, but the following days would need herbal treatment. He would send someone to notify him when the preparations were finished. The man said then they would no longer take up his time. Zhang told Sun Qian to escort the guests out. As they walked out of the threshold, the Lord told his wife that she was still weak. She didn't need to walk. This replied that her whole body had become numb during this time and she was so eager to take a walk. Feeling sad, Zhang thought about what she wanted to solve the problem for about 10 days and almost ruined everything in one moment. She woke up too quickly. How could an opportunity like this be missed? Sun Qian returned to his master and reported that Lord Lin had already left. Zhang Huang, who was sitting on his chair, grimly picked his head up with his hand. The fellow happily reported that the entire city couldn't believe the recovery of the Lord's wife. Not only did he make her wake up, but he even helped her walk. It's unbelievable. Ignore it, Zhang asked. What else is there? The guy took out some money and said, also Lord Lin had left it before he left. 10 bills of 100,000 each, 1 million in total. Zhang came to resent thinking that he wanted to take money from him for a while longer, but she stood up and was even able to take the first steps. He would have to act on the situation. The capital of Tianshuan Kingdom, the residence of the Du clan. An elderly, short old man was standing on the terrace. It was Du Miaoshuan, Du Yuan's father. Beside him was a plaque that said that once upon a time, a very long time ago, he was an influential and hopeful genius warrior, the heir of the Du clan. Alas, now he was just an ordinary old man. He knocked down that plaque with his foot. Sitting in the rocking chair drinking tea, Miao Xuan thought about the fact that he could still control the situation. But if he died, his family would undoubtedly be banished. If it came to that, of course. For starters, the clan must leave Yuan heir. Otherwise, there might be complications. A servant walked beside him, holding a sign that said that despite his serious ailments and loss of most of his power, no one dared to disturb his hours of seclusion, in which not even his son was allowed to enter. The old man threw a mug at the servant, hitting him directly in the head. Du Yuan called out loudly to his father, running towards him. The old man asked unhappily, didn't he say not to disturb him? The boy fearfully apologized and said that he would come back later then. But the old man told him to wait. The guy was in such a hurry to see him. What happened? The guy told him that there was a grandmaster in town who was able to cure Lord Lin's wife in 10 minutes. He thought that maybe he could help his father too. Du Miao asked in surprise. What did the man just say? A grandmaster in their city? The guy replied that yes, he had seen it with his own eyes. Before he could finish speaking, the old man was already at the other end of the courtyard and indignantly told him to hurry up. They need to meet him. Tianshuan rumors. Someone asked if they had heard that the grandmaster had come to visit them in the city. He had cured Lord Lin's wife in less than 10 minutes. Someone asked in response, how so? It was all lies. Even the most famous doctor in the country couldn't help her. And even if the grandmaster is good, he can't be all-knowing. Someone added that they also thought it was nonsense. It couldn't happen in their town. Another said that he heard that this person's name was Zhang Xuan. There are only a few Grand Masters in the 9 kingdoms around Tianshuan, and he had never heard that name. The other asked that maybe that person is just a good teacher and people are exaggerating. Either way, if he doesn't have the knowledge of a doctor, is he even capable of doing anything? Another added that he had heard that their lord had called for grandmasters to visit him several times, so how did one of them end up at their place so discreetly? Someone added that whether it was true or not, they could only find out by checking it out. An annoyed Zhang Huang said that it was unbelievable. Why is it like this? He told Sun Qian to lie down. The guy looked at him fearfully, thinking that when the Lord wanted to touch the Lord's wife, he was glad that his horrible thoughts were only thoughts. But maybe he just wasn't attracted to women? The guy wanted to object something, but Zhang looked at him angrily. Be quicker, that you will not die, it is perfectly safe. The butler was lying on the floor, and Zhang Huang crouched beside him, placing one hand on the guy's chin and the other on his stomach. He said strangely, why is there no reaction? The guy looked at the Lord fearfully, asking, what kind of reaction is he expecting? And he thought to himself, the gentleman is expecting some kind of reaction from him. Maybe the gentleman wants him to take the initiative. Does he like to be on the bottom? Zhang told the guy not to move. He's going to knock him out now. The guy darkens even more, asking the Lord what he wants to do. Is he not satisfied with him being conscious? Zhang asked what kind of nonsense he was talking about, but without waiting for an answer, he knocked the guy out with the edge of his palm. Once in the library, he finally realized that people who were not conscious were treated as inanimate objects by the library. Only by touching them could he get information. The next time he encountered a similar situation, he would know what to do. While Zhang was holding the guy's wrist, a guard appeared in the doorway and told the gentleman that the Honorable Zhang Xuan wanted to meet with him. Zhang said to let him in. He patted the guy on the cheek, telling him to wake up. It was time to work. Looking at the gate of Zhang Xuan's manor, Du Miao thought about how his ailment had caused his abilities to be greatly weakened, which was why he was so happy about the news of the Grandmaster. But now it was as if he had sobered up. How could the Grandmaster not make a fuss with his arrival, and even to live in a house like this? Moreover, Grandmasters usually have many apprentices. Why would he take an ordinary merchant as his servant? The old man asked his son standing next to him if he was sure if the Grandmaster lived here. The boy replied that yes, Sun Qian had said so himself. Yes, he had seen Lord Lin's healthy wife himself. The old man thought again about whether or not the fellow was a Grandmaster. It was a possibility for him either way. If the one was lying, he could always just leave. Just then, Sun Qian came out and said that his master was willing to receive them, let them pass through. As he followed the butler, the old man thought that the layout of the house looked good, but nothing outstanding. This reinforced his suspicions. Zhang Huang sat in his wooden chair and looked at the old man and the guy in front of him. The butler told his master that this was the esteemed Du Miao Xuan and his son Du Yuan. The old man squinted his eyes as he regarded the Grandmaster. He thought about the fact that he looked to be around 40 years old, but judging from his skin, he is much younger than he tries to look. He's masking his appearance. If he's a true Grandmaster, what's the point of him changing his appearance? He's a fraud. And Zhang Huang calmly drank his tea but thought to himself, didn't this man come there because of the story about Ling Tianyu? Then why is he looking at him like that? The old man glared angrily at the guy, thinking that the guy was most likely in cahoots with Lord Lin. They had just tricked his young son. Zhang also looked angrily at the old man, thinking, what's wrong with him? Why doesn't the latter show respect? At this moment, an agitated Du Yuan said that his father was seriously ill, and this illness was greatly affecting his fighting ability. He had heard about the one coming to their city, so he hoped that he would be able to help him. Zhang asked sternly, does he really look like a healer? And he himself thought about the fact that he was now in the image of a Grandmaster. Can he lose his pride by rushing to help his father who looks at him as a traitor? The boy became even more agitated, not sure what to answer. He turned to his father, and the latter said with a smile, apologizing to Master Yang. He just had some questions about his fighting style, and when he heard that Master Yang was coming, he couldn't resist and wanted to seek his advice. Zhang put his mug down on the table, thinking, where could he have made a puncture? The old man looked at him slyly, thinking that perhaps he might have been smart enough to trick his inexperienced son, but a veteran like him, he could not be outsmarted. Zhang asked with a smirk, did he really want advice? And in his mind, he had it in his mind that he would figure out any technique in the Library of Heaven's Way before he even had time to think about it. The one doubting him, he would rub his nose in it now. The old man added that he had recently learned a new style but hadn't mastered it well enough. He hoped he could get his help. The old man thought that if he likes pretending to be a Grandmaster so much, let him be ready to do his job. Now he will rip off that mask. The old man said, starting, and got into a stance. The next moment, Zhang saw all the flaws and stopped the old man, telling him that he can try harder. Looking at his posture, you can tell that he has been familiar with the fast fist technique for a very long time, and could reach the 3rd rank with it. But he can't seem to control the force. If he's not wrong, he's not human, right? Sun Qian and Du Yuan were simply shocked by this. The young master told the Grandmaster, then perhaps his father was disrespectful, but to insult him by calling him not human. But Zhang interrupted him, telling him to ask his father, insulted. The boy looked at the old man in surprise, who trembled, and then fell to his knees and made a bow with his head to the floor, asking Grandmaster Yang to help him. Sun Qian stared at this incomprehensibly, thinking, is it definitely Du Miao Xuan? Is he mentally ill, or is he a masochist? Just now he was cocky and cruel, but the moment the master called him not human, he fell to his knees. Zhang told the butler to escort their guests out. The guy nodded and asked the gentleman to go out. The old man kept bowing, saying that he was terribly wrong, and asked, give him a chance. Zhang wondered to himself, who did he think he was? First the man doubted him, and now he has to accept him. He looked at them glumly and asked if his words were nothing to them. Sun Qian shouted to the guards to escort the Honorable Du out. Two of them grabbed the old man and dragged him towards the gate. The man kept shouting that he knew he was wrong. He would wait outside for as long as it took. Looking at his father, who was kneeling in front of the gate, the boy thought about the fact that the man would actually wait here. Why would he be? Just because he was called something that wasn't human? Had that hurt his father's feelings? The old man told him to sit down as well. This gentleman is a true grandmaster and he disrespected him. No wonder. Now we can only hope for his mercy. The boy said he didn't understand, and his father shouted at him to kneel down. All they have to do is ask the one for forgiveness, because only he can heal him. The boy knelt down, thinking that the grandmaster hadn't said anything wrong. Just called him not human. Was that really the word his father was having such a reaction to? Awkwardly scratching the back of his head, Sun Qian recalled the words, "Feel your wife. Lie down. You're not human." He wondered if all grandmasters talk so strangely. Or do powerful men have a fetish for humiliation? In the future he would try it that way too. Maybe there would be more success in things. Upon arriving at the teacher's office, the butler said that the two gentlemen were sitting on their knees in front of the entrance. The one replied that it was fine. Let the boy forget about them. The one asked the master in surprise, what will they do now? Frowning his face, Zhang Xuan thought about sitting still and waiting for money and useless. 1 million from Lord Lin is too little. His target is 23 million. Well, asking for money directly is also impossible, not befitting the status. He stood up and told the guy he was leaving. He didn't need to follow him, but he would have another task. Zhang whispered in his ear and the boy looked at him doubtfully. If he got up and left now, he would lose his only chance. Just then they heard the two outside the gate talking about how today when Lord Lin came to see their lord, he gave him 1 million gold coins. What generosity. The second one asked if it was true. The first replied that of course he had seen it with his own eyes, it was true. 1 million gold coins to them is an astronomical amount, but to a man like the Lord it is not much at all. He heard Sun say that the Lord took it to give Lord Lin peace of mind, not jealous that others owed him. Du Miao put his finger to his mouth, showing his son to be quieter, and he himself started to listen as the other replied that if that was what you were saying, he definitely remembered that Lord Lin had been here all night, and his lordship didn't even want to notice him. He managed to get in because he gave Sun money and the latter put in a good word about him to the Lord. Hearing this, the old man told his son to come home now and take his savings over the years. The lad replied that he would do well. The guard went on to say that he heard that the master had reprimanded Sun's brother. He considered it a personal insult since Lord Lin only valued him at 1 million. Grandmaster's prestige should remain inviolable, but since you decided to offer money anyway, such a sum is good for them, but absolutely nothing for their master. The other replied that he remembered that some servants had whispered about it, but he didn't expect it to be true. Du Miao stopped his son, telling him to take more of those precious pills he had recently bought, to sell them and take the proceeds to him, and also gather all the wild beast skins, his entire collection. Do the same with them. The first guard's voice came out again and said that it was true. When Lord Lin gave 1 million gold pieces, and the Lord didn't even look at the money, Sun Qian had to take it himself. Du Miao again told his son to wait, and continued to listen to what the guard said. He was sure that Master Yang only took pity and cured the woman because she was on the verge of death. He is honorable in his actions. Perhaps if a seemingly healthy man with the ability to deliver a couple of blows had come to him, the teacher would have done things differently if he hadn't ignored the man. The old man had told his son to sell his sword, and from what he remembered, the third elder of the Du clan wanted to take his business, so let him sell it to him. If he offers a decent price, he'll give all his investment. Du Yuan asked his father that it was all their savings, what would they do in the future? But then the guard's voice came out again, saying that their second customer just happened to be a quite healthy man. He had clearly made it clear that he was healthy. Probably wanted to fool the teacher, to show the stupidity of their master. The other added that no doubt the gentleman didn't consider money the most valuable thing in life, but this old man hadn't even bothered to take any coins with him. Without offering anything in return, he brazenly came and dared to ask for help. What was he thinking? Hearing this, the old man seriously told his son to take all of his mother's savings and come here. Zhang Xuan took off his makeup and grandmaster robes, saying that he had worn it all for more than 24 hours. Heavy though. The first medicines should have already arrived at the pharmacist's guild. He should pick them up. There was a small decanter and a box on the table. Ouyang Chung told Master Zhang that the Meridian Rejuvenation Pill and Body-Nourishing Medicinal Solution were ready. His other 2 requests were in process. Placing these items into the green storage ring, Zhang said with a smile that he would take them then. He also asked if he had any pure breath pills. He would be happy to acquire them. The man replied that yes, he had some left, could share some with him. Zhang thanked and asked Mr. Ouyang again if he knew if the pharmacist's library had information on spear wielding. The man replied thoughtfully, "Then the spear is not as popular as swords, so not many people tend to excel at it. If he asked someone else, they would throw up their hands. But he knows one person who has been practicing spearing all his life, developing the secrets of the technique and passing it down from generation to generation." Zhang cheerfully asked if he could introduce them. The man replied that the one usually stays at home. It's hard to get to a stranger, and he's also reluctant to teach secrets. But they are close friends with him, so it might work out. Zhang replied that he would be very grateful to him. The man offered to take him to his house. The pharmacists went to that man's house and the servant told Mr. Ouyang that his master was in training. Let them wait for a while. Sitting in the gazebo at the table, the man replied that it was fine. They would wait for him. After that, he told Zhang that his friend's name is Wang Chong. They have known each other for more than 20 years. He has been in the world of spear wielding since he was a child. There is no better master in the whole city. The emperor personally praised his skills. After hearing this, Zhang thought to herself, "That's amazing." The fact that you can stand out from tens of millions of other people in any profession shows perseverance and talent. An elderly man with long black hair that was gathered into a high ponytail twirled the spear in his hand, and with a smile he asked old man Ouyang if he was talking about how bad he was again. Ouyang stood up and walked towards his friend, replying that he wasn't bored enough to talk bad about him. Wang Chong replied that he was apparently bored since he had come to see him. Shaking his friend's hand, Wang Chun asked him, "Who was that? His junior?" Ouyang laughed awkwardly, thinking, what junior? He was so eager to please him, and he had almost ruined everything with his words. But he asked to let him introduce. "This is the new guild member, the first-star pharmacist, Zhang Huang." The guy waved his hand with a smile, saying hello. Wang Chong looked at the guy interestedly, thinking about the fact that he's so young, yet he's already an alchemist. That's amazing. And Ouyang added, "That's not all. The guy successfully passed the pill discussion. All 10 pharmacists recognized him. Most likely, no one knows more about herbs and alchemy than him." Wang Chong exclaimed in surprise, and Zhang replied that Mr. Ouyang was too kind. He just has some knowledge, in fact, in practice he is bad. When they all sat down at the table, Ouyang told his friend that he came here with a request. Wang Chong replied that he was listening to him. The man said that actually, Master Zhang is also fond of spear practice. If he has time, could he give him a couple lessons? The man cheerfully asked the guy if he was really into spearing. That's a great thing. But the guy laughed awkwardly, saying that he had never actually held a spear in his hands. The 2 old men looked at him in surprise, and the guy said that he actually had a disciple who was interested in the spear, and he would like to give him more knowledge. Wang Chong asked, "Does he really want to teach another person spear when he himself is not practicing it?" The man sternly thought to himself, "Is this really such a joke? Many people spend their whole life on this skill but never learn it properly. So how does he want to benefit his student with such a stockpile of his own knowledge?" Crossing his arms on his chest, Wang Chong angrily said that spear mastery is very hard to learn. It is impossible to reach the heights in a short period of time. Even he doesn't know how to help him. He will only confuse the boy. The boy awkwardly asked that in that case maybe he has books about it that he could review. Wang Chong was surprised at this, and then sighed and said that the books contain good theory. It's good to look through them. He has a lot of them, could guide him there. Zhang thanked happily. Entering the library, which had many racks of books, Wang Chong told the guy that he had a big library. There were books about various techniques and even tricks, information from all over the kingdom. He then looked at his friend and suggested that he didn't interfere with the guy's reading. Ouyang smiled and offered to drink more tea. When they came out, Zhang grinned and got to work. Walking away from the library building, Wang Chong excitedly asked what the noise was because he heard the rustling of pages. Without letting his friend return, Ouyang said that he must be looking for the right book. Flipping through another book, Zhang Huang thought that this spearmaster really does have a huge library. Sitting at the table with mugs of tea, Wang Chong asked his friend if he had gone through the pill discussion. Yang replied that yes, his skill in alchemy is even higher than him. That one is a true genius. The martial artist laughed and said that the one has a talent for herbs, but the spear is definitely not his. Martial arts are not toys. It's not something that can be learned just by reading. Otherwise, he himself wouldn't have spent his whole life on it. Yang agreed with him, saying that the spear is probably the most complicated weapon. He doesn't understand how anyone is successful in wielding it. There is no secret knowledge in that library, is there? Wang Chong replied that no, all those crucial secrets are only in his head. They will only be recognized by the person he tells about them, only like this. In that library, there are only the basics. They will help beginners, but in general, they are small things. He thinks after reading those books, Master Zhang will discard the naive thoughts of teaching his student the spear. Yang thought to himself that it is indeed a joke to try to teach someone a spear when you see it for the first time. He replied to his friend that he was right, and Wang Chong added that this boy was still young. He just didn't realize the importance yet. Soon he will give up and leave the library. He will demonstrate his skills to him, then he should understand what's involved. Yang said with a smile. Then he should still focus on alchemy. He still dreams of having a second-star pharmacist in their guild. Just then, Wang Chong noticed a fire spear flying towards them. He was tired and warned his friend to be careful. Reaching out in front of him, he took the blow on himself. But as the spear approached the master, it went around him and crashed into the wall behind his back. A startled Yang asked, "What is this?" Wang Chong grimly replied that it was a resolute spear. It is the same as the resolute sword that swordsmen achieve with phenomenal ball control. A master who achieves perfect mastery of the spear can comprehend this technique. It seems that this man is in the mansion. He has hidden his spear. A shocked Zhang Xuan dropped the book from his hand as well, and looked at the huge hole in the wall in front of him. He wondered, what had he done again? He had just tried a couple Heaven's Path library strikes, but he didn't expect them to be so strong. At least the deed is done. Unfortunately, there are fewer books here than there are mistakes in them, but the library still created the Heaven's Path spear technique. Running up to the library, Wang Chong said that it seems like that strike was from here. Walking through the hole, he asked who did it. Zhang awkwardly apologized, adding that he could make amends. Wang Chong shockedly asked, was it really him? Just now, was it his resolute spear? Unleashing his power, the silhouette of a spear appeared behind the guy's back. He asked, was this what he was talking about? Looking at it, Wang Chun was dumbfounded, thinking, is it really true? But the one said that he had never held one like me in his hands. How was he able to use this technique? In her mind, Yang asked, is this a resolute spear? His friend has been practicing this skill since he was 8 years old. It's been decades, but he hasn't reached this level of weapon proficiency either. And he had achieved it so easily, as if it was meant to be. Wang Chong asked the guy, surely he had not trained in spear before. How did he do it then? Zhang replied that he really hadn't perfected the spear before. He had figured out how to do it from his books. He had accidentally used the resolute spear without even knowing what it was. Mentally shedding tears, Wang Chong thought about the fact that he had spent more than 10 years perfecting himself, walking into barren lands, overcoming cold and heat, making his will stronger and stronger, but had not succeeded. And the one, after a couple hours in the library, can already do whatever he wants with the spear. He did it with his mind, not with his labor. If the other spear masters find out about this, they'll die from it. Yang Chung put his hand on his friend's shoulder, laughed awkwardly, and said that not everyone is born with the same talent. Master Zhang must have a predisposition for the spear as well. Zhang asked what the man said was a resolute spear, but what was it anyway? The man replied that a resolute spear is the result of understanding the spear. It becomes like an extension of the hand. This spear is more spiritual than material, but it has tremendous power. Zhang rejoiced, saying that this was excellent. He would be able to pass this knowledge to his disciple, and he would definitely win. Looking at the guy, Wang Chong thought, did he really think that his disciple was as talented as he was? Resolute spear is an individual path that everyone understands differently. Who else would have the ability to understand it through books? Zhang then said that he just learned one technique from reading a book as well, but he doesn't know how powerful it is. Could he please give him some tips? Clearly not understanding it, Wang Chong asked, is he still comprehending the spear? But he agreed, saying he also wanted to see how a genius like him handles the spear in practice. Walking onto the platform, Wang Chong threw the lad the spear and said that this could only be tested in a real battle. Let him show him what he can do. Zhang Xuan gave a warning start and then made a dash, lunging at the master. A dragon aura appeared behind his back. He pulled his spear forward and the dragon passed through the master. Stopping the blade close to the man's trembling face, the lad pulled back, uncertain that the man had resisted his full force strike, which was expected from a spearmaster. It looked like his strength wouldn't be enough to defeat him. But Wang Chong stood in a stupor. His face protruded underneath, but thought about the fact that he himself wasn't that good. If he hadn't trained for years and reached the 7th rank, he might have already died from this blow. He replied to the guy that it was a good strike. The guy awkwardly scratched the back of his head, saying that he wanted to teach this technique to his student, but he was sure there were disadvantages to it. It would be nice if the master could give him some tips. The man thought to himself, did Master Zhang decide to finally stomp him into the dirt? What could he say about his technique? He didn't even realize how he had gotten that punch. The man replied that he thought he could teach this technique to his student. Zhang Huang happily turned around, saying that it was excellent. Zheng Yang will definitely win. And Wang Chong silently lowered his head, thinking that he had refused to teach him an hour ago, thinking that he was insulting the very art of spear wielding. Was he now insulting him himself? He could not have reached such heights in 40 years. He raised his head and with a blush on his face, he asked Master Zhang if he could teach him. Zhang looked at him and asked with a smile if he wanted to learn. He could tell him. They began to discuss spears and Yang looked at their backs, thinking to himself, wasn't it Master Zhang who had come to learn? How did they switch places? And Wang Chong listened to everything and thought about the fact that usually masters of their craft didn't give away secrets to the first person they met. Even he did not divulge his secrets, and some of them only his son knows. And Master Zhang did a very noble thing. His advice is truly priceless. He told the guy that his words are very useful. He can't just accept them for nothing. He doesn't have a daughter to marry her off to him, so how should they go about it? This is when Ouyang Chung intervened, saying that Master Zhang was just short of funds to buy some medicine. He thought it would be a good tuition fee. Taking out the money and holding it out to the guy, Wang Chong said with a smile that they would do so. He hopes that Master Zhang will accept this modest payment, otherwise he apologizes for his unpaid labor. Surprised at this, Zhang thought to himself, what is going on? He came to learn, but he became a teacher himself and he also earned money. After accepting the money, Wang Chong bowed to him and thanked him once again. Zhang waved his hand, saying that the payment was enough, he didn't need to. He then looked at Mr. Ouyang, saying if he could look after his pills, and he would come for them later. The man replied to him that it was no problem. Zhang added that he has to go back to school, so let them take their time with the medicine. Ouyang replied that they would wait for his distant package then. Zhang smiled happily at the fact that he had almost all the medicines he needed in his hands. They would greatly help his students. Walking into the courtyard of his classroom, Zhang Huang saw only Wang Ying and asked, why is she here alone? Where are the others? The girl was flustered and didn't know what to answer. Zhang sternly said that he had thought for so long to help them train and they didn't even come. He yelled for her to say, where are they all? Just then Yuan Dao ran past him and told Wang Yin to hurry up and go there because the battle was about to start. But when the guy noticed the teacher, he got really scared. And Zhang asked, what's the battle? Why are they all there and not here? Was he talking about training battles? It hasn't gotten knowledge yet, are they going to fight? Is his word no longer their command? The boy excitedly replied that it wasn't what he thought. Today the Education Bureau distributes funds to help teachers. They said he wasn't worthy of funding and refused to give him money. They disagreed and that was how the fuss started. Zhang furrowed his eyebrows and asked what kind of funding? Some students stood at the gate and watched Zhang Huang's students arguing with someone. Zheng Yang shouted that the Teachers Guild had already proved that Zhang Huang's teachers had been slandered. Why don't they want to allocate resources to him? A man with blue hair and a patch on his forehead cheekily asked, slandered? Where's the document? They haven't seen it. Since they have no accurate data other than the results of the teacher's exam, on which teacher Zhang scored 0, there is no point in wasting precious things on him. And let them not look at him like that. It's their own fault for choosing him as their teacher. Zhao Yao countered that even if the documents haven't come to them yet, teacher Zhang's innocence is a fact. He remains a teacher as long as he has followers, students. That's more than enough for respect. They will deny that as well. The man replied that he didn't argue. Their academy had such rules, but it was also stipulated in the statute that if the students underperformed the administration, they shouldn't help him with resources. They disagreed with the Education Bureau's decision and made this circus here. Isn't he right? The girl got angry and the man asked, what? She doesn't agree. Since that's the case, the lower arena is over there. If she defeats his disciples, he will not only give her the breathing powder, but also the breath pill. It's even more than their light. This pill each teacher gets once a month, but he can give them 3 if they win, of course. The students were in a stupor, and Zhao Yao said that the lower arena exists to settle conflicts. Between students, it is similar to the upper arena. If a student in a quarrel with a teacher can defeat all the students of that teacher will have to apologize to the student. Yang Li seriously said that they should do it. If they succeed, they will let them have 3 breath pills. Zhang also said firmly that Teacher Zhang had done so much for them, and everything is gratuitous, they should thank him right now. Zhao Yao added that Teacher Zhang might not need the pills, but they would be given to everyone but him. For the sake of protecting his dignity, they must fight. Zheng Yang agreed, adding that since Teacher Zhang wasn't here, they would defend his honor themselves. That would be a dignified response. He loudly announced that they agreed, and the man with blue hair grinned, telling them not to regret their choice. Let all those who agree to the battle come out. It's time to show their place. The winners will be well rewarded. As the students gathered behind him, he said that they were his students, 47 in total. No matter one by one or in a group, they must defeat everyone. The trio was shocked, but then Zhang Yang told his comrades not to lose their resolve. He would go first because the others still had injuries from the last fight. The classmates wished him good luck. Zhang Huang thought about Zhou Tian, and that he did to remember crossing his path, so why was he asking for a beating? Yuan Dao, who was following the teacher, said that he had heard that he used to be Elder Chen's disciple, and it was with his help that he became a teacher. Zhang replied that it was clear then. However, with his reputation, it would not be easy. Zhen Yang, like his opponent, holding a long stick in his hand. He was thinking about how he needed to hold on. He couldn't give up. And the guy who had mint hair asked, did the guy deflate on the 6th opponent? Throwing himself at the guy, he asked how dare they insult his teacher by challenging him. Now he would show him what they deserved. Closing his eyes, Zheng Yang thought there, he should hold back. While hearing a slight thump, the guy opened his eyes and saw Teacher Zheng intercepting the stick with 2 fingers. Zhou Tian indignantly asked Zhang Huang, what is he doing there? His students willingly challenged his students. Is he going to beat up his students with his own hands? Zhang interjected in surprise. Beat up his students? That's too much honor. Making a slight movement with his fingers, the guy's stick was broken in several places. He thought about how Zheng Yang and the others were too traumatized. They simply couldn't continue. Zhou Tian shouted again, asking why he was on the battlefield then. Does he want to surrender? His disciples had agreed on their own and had already injured 5 of them. They must continue. And he couldn't stop it unless he admitted that his disciples were weaker than his disciples. Gritting his teeth, Zheng Yang replied so he wouldn't even dream. Zheng Yang stood up in front of the teacher, replying that he no way would he admit defeat. Their teacher deserved better. But putting his hand on the guy's shoulder, Zhang smilingly told him not to worry. He wouldn't admit it either. Zhou Tian shouted again that then let them continue and the guy leaves the arena. A fight between students should be fair. Zhang replied to him not to worry. He said that he doesn't admit defeat, but that doesn't mean he wants his students to continue the fight. Zhou Tian asked, did he really want them not to continue? The fight started without him. There's no changing anything anymore. Let him stop getting in the way. Zhang replied that his disciples' decision was his decision. He doesn't regret their desire to fight at all, but he thinks the lower arena is too boring. Will he or that one dare to move to the upper arena? Zhou Tian's disciples asked in surprise. What? Move to the upper arena? Is he out of his mind? Does he have a problem with his head? In the upper arena, they would fight against the teacher. They couldn't defeat them and he wants to put them against their teacher? The surprised man asked. Does he really want his students to challenge him? Zhang Huang asked with a smirk. Was he really scared? But the teacher only laughed, saying that the man would bury himself as well. He agreed. If they win, he will give them 10 pills, and if they lose, Zhang will kneel before him. Zhang calmly replied, okay. He hopes the man won't take back his words. Zhao Yao anxiously thought about the fact that they had indeed become stronger in the past few days. She had personally realized a lot of things for herself, But the battle with the teacher is also a voluntary defeat. Stepping into the ring, Zhou Tian told his disciple that he could come down, and then asked Zhang how his disciples would fight, all together or one at a time. Innocently smiling, the latter replied that considering his strength, one of his disciples would be enough for him. The battle would be one-on-one. No one other than Zhen Yang had entered the battle yet, so it would be fair if he was the one to fight. Placing his hand on the guy's shoulder, he told him to continue. Zhou Tian was annoyed by this, and he thought about what was good. Let the guy brag now. They'll see what happens at the end. The guy looked at the teacher excitedly, but the teacher told him not to rejoice before time. Let him hold back his smile. After winning, one can already rejoice. The guy thought about the fact that he was ready to burst into tears here, and Zhang told their opponent that he would teach the guy a technique before the battle. The man laughed, replying that it was too late. But Zhang said that it didn't matter if it was late or not. This technique would defeat him. Taking the spear from his student's hands, the man told him that he would show him something. Clutching the spear in his hand, he told the guy to memorize and then started waving the spear up and down. A surprised Zhou Tian thought to himself, did he really call this a technique? He had seen many students cheating teachers, but this was the first time he had seen a cheating teacher. Holding out his spear to the boy with a smile, Zhang asked if he had learned this. Mentally drenching himself with tears, Zheng Yang thanked while thinking about the fact that she had learned this move at the age of 5 when she first picked up the spear. Would this help him win? Would the teacher be sure of it? Zhang told him okay, now that he was ready, he only had to hope for himself. He clapped the guy on the back and energy began to be transmitted through him. The guy was surprised, but he heard the teacher's voice in his head telling him not to resist, but to let his qi regulate his breathing, let it calm him down. What he was about to teach him was the breathing method of the spear art. Feeling a surge of strength, Zhen Yang thought about how this teacher's breathing method was far superior to all the spear techniques he had learned before. Any ordinary movement would become super powerful when combined with this kind of breathing. Zhang mentally told him again to synthesize the new breath with his own breath. Let him hold this energy within himself, but continue to pretend to be weak. When the battle begins, have him parasite him with one blow. The guy replied that yes, he would. Zhou Tian said with a chuckle as he could barely hold his spear. Surely he wants to fight him. But the guy got into a stance and told the teacher that they were starting. Clenching his fist, Zhou Tian thought about how Zhang Huang was going to embarrass him with the help of his disciple, teaching him a trick that won't even kill a chicken. Does he think he's worse than a chicken? He shouted to Zhang, who was outside the arena, that he would pay for it, and Zhao Yang asked the teacher to let her replace Zheng Yang. The one replied with a smile that no way, let her just watch. The guy with the table face asked the teacher to be lenient. The one adjusted his sleeves replied that he can't be merciful, it's a battle. It's his teacher's fault for everything. Zheng Yang replied, then he too will not hold back. Zhou Tian rushed towards the guy and the guy raised his spear, shouted force activation, and pointed it towards his opponent. Through the spear in the form of a snake with its mouth open, energy was directed at the opponent. Receiving many blows from the blunt end of the spear all over his body, Zhou Tian shouted, what the hell is this technique? Why is it so strong? After another strike, the teacher flew out of the ring towards his students and fell to the ground. Those surrounded him asking, had Teacher Zhou been defeated? What had just happened now? Teacher Zhou had gone against the rules and unleashed his strength to stop the punch, but it didn't help him. Looking at this with a smile, Zhang thought to himself that this wasn't bad for his student. The one had adapted well in such a short time. 70 points for practical application, 40 points for technique. And the other 4 disciples thought about how Zheng Yang suddenly became so strong. Zheng Yang walked to the edge of the ring and bowed to Teacher Zhou, thanking him, and then told him that the same said he would give them 10 breath pills if they won. He should give them right now. Holding his chest with one hand, squirming his face in pain, Zhou Tian ordered these pills to be brought to him. A disciple who had minty hair asked if he was sure. Well, the teacher shouted to him not to argue, and quickly brought them over. Zhen Yang, with a smile on his face and with the box in his hand, he walked over to his teacher. Zhou Tian angrily thought about how it didn't matter that he had given him the beads. They were only won by his disciples for himself. That one simply wouldn't be able to accept them. They weren't his. Looking at the beads in the box with an underwhelmed expression, Zhang wondered if they were breath beads. He looked at the other disciples, asking if they were the reason they fought so desperately. He threw the box on the floor and crushed it with his foot. Everyone was shocked, and Zhou Tian thought there that it was a box of precious pills worth 1,000 gold each. Why did he break them? Zhang Huang told his disciples not to be surprised, although these beads helped to gather energy, but if used frequently, they would only harm them, and that was bad for training. Taking out a small vial from the ring, he said that he had prepared something for them. We'll bring more when the vial runs out. Zhao Yao poured out one pill on her palm, and they all exclaimed that these were pure breath pills. She asked the teacher if it was for them. He replied that of course it was. As his students, they don't have to get involved in such squabbles over mere trifles. He turned to Wang Yin, saying that her legs had not recovered yet. This would help her in her treatment. He handed her another vial, telling her to mix the medicine with water and keep many people in this infusion for 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, she would be fine. He then took out a box and held it out to Yang Li, saying that his exercises had proved disastrous for his hands. This will help him. Let him train with his method and take the medicine. He would definitely get better. Zhou Tian's disciples began to discuss that could the body-nourishing medicinal solution be found anywhere else but the Pharmacists' Guild. Another asked if they had heard that. Someone replied that of course he knows that this stuff is great at restoring meridians. He knows from someone that such a medicine costs somewhere around 300,000, and then there's the meridian rejuvenation pill. One such pill is worth somewhere around 200,000 gold. Someone asked him that he had spent 500,000 in total, but he was told that even with the pills the total should be over 1 million. And all this for the students? Someone asked if Teacher Zhang was still accepting students. He would like to get in with him. From these words were like a stab in the heart for Zhou Tian. He thought about how Zhang Huang had planned all of this from the beginning. Heading towards the exit of that courtyard, Zhang Huang told his disciples that it was time for them to go. Stop wasting precious time, they should practice. In Zhang Huang's class, Zhao Yao told the teacher that these pills were too expensive. He patted her shoulder, telling her to just let them help him win the teacher's evaluation. It would be a great payment. The others replied to the teacher not to worry. They will do their best. They will not disappoint him. The one replied that it was excellent, then told Zheng Yang that he needed to talk to him separately. Walking into the inner room, the guy awkwardly asked about that spear technique. Zheng replied that he had created it recently. He would explain all its secrets to him now. He earnestly asked him not to spread this information. After listening to everything, Zheng Yang thinks about the fact that this technique may look ridiculous or graceful. The power does not change from the way it is used. Although it is just one move, it is better than countless spear techniques. Its power is limitless. Zhang added that it was a simple movement, but it was the foundation of the entire spear art. There are less than 10 days left before the teacher's evaluation. He hoped that the lad would learn well everything he told him. The kid replied that, of course, and then asked what the teacher called the move. The guy awkwardly replied that he hadn't come up with a name for it yet, so he would leave it to him. Walking out to the rest of the students, Zhang said that he had some business to attend to, so he was leaving. Their job was to train according to his methods and not think about anything else. Throughout the city, some people asked others if they knew that it had been a whole day since Zhang Xuan sat on his knees in front of that mansion. Someone replied that yes, that esteemed clan head, and although his position is cap in hand, before whom did he restrain his pride? Was it really before the Grandmaster? If that was true, then their assumptions were correct. We should go in and take a look. Did someone ask what was going on? If it was really the Grandmaster, one should hurry up and befriend him. A dark figure stood around the corner and watched what was happening in front of the mansion gates. The man thought to himself that it was definitely Zhang Xuan. He was always very careful, never losing face in front of anyone. The person in this mansion should definitely help him, make him happy. Just then the gate opened, and Sun Qian appeared on the threshold, telling the gentleman that the master was ready to receive them. The old man thanked dear Sun, and the latter let them inside. The man who was watching all of this from around the corner thought about the one who had entered. He would look at his condition after someone came out. Sitting on his knees in front of Zhang Huan, Zhang Xuan apologized for his earlier disrespect. He had been wrong. He asked for help again. The man replied to him that he had let him in, so he would help him. He was right to call him a beast. The old man replied that he was. Zhang went on to say that his problems didn't start 10 years ago. It started much earlier. Training stopped giving him advancement, and he decided to take the blood of a white wolf, trying to change his nature. This resulted in the wolf's blood taking over his body every afternoon. He would be covered in the hide of the beast, but he could not be called an animal, nor could he be called a human. He's a werewolf, is he right? The old man dejectedly answered that yes, he is completely right. The son looked sadly at his father, thinking that it was no wonder that he was secluded in the garden every afternoon. He thought it was just a harmless habit. Now he could see why the man didn't get angry, but fell to his knees. While drinking tea, Zhang said that the snow wolf is a beast equal in strength to the 7th human rank, with thick white fur and speed equal to the wind. Its blood is one of the main ingredients to make the Zhang Xuan pill, which has the effect of unblocking meridians and increasing the speed of development. The one took the blood of the snow wolf, and thought that if his blood took someone else's blood, he would become many times stronger. The old man replied that he would. He was young and naive, unable to tell the difference between truth and lies. He relies on him to save him. Putting it in a mug on the table, Zhang interjected, "Did he not distinguish truth from lies? His information is quite truthful." Du Miao asked in surprise, "Is it really true? But if it is, why did he suffer for so many years?" Zhang stood up and started to walk over to him, answering that although it was true, the basic information from that manuscript he was reading had been destroyed. He hadn't completed his treatment, that's all. He told the man to take off his clothes, and with acupuncture he would help him. While the man took off the top of his clothes, Zhang took out the needles from the ring and thought about the fact that Du Miao Xuan and Lord Lin's wife's problem were quite similar. They were blocked meridians that made the wolf blood unable to circulate normally through the body. He would simply clear them and the problem would be solved. The needles that were hovering in his palm with a slight sweep of his hand stabbed into the old man. As the father and son walked out of the Grandmaster mansion, a man who had a thick beard approached them. It was obvious from his open arms that he was in good physical shape. He called out to Elder Du, and the latter looked at him and recognized Master Luo. The old man asked the man what was his fate. The man asked about this mansion. Du Yuan replied that Grandmaster Yang lived in it. Luo asked if that was true. Du Miao replied with a smile that, yes it is. Grandmaster Yang is an intelligent person with great abilities. If he has any problems he can go to him. Except he doesn't like frequent visitors. He came here to rest. The man hesitated and the old man added that actually, he shouldn't worry. Master Yang can solve anyone's problem, but you have to give 3 million first, and whether the problem is solved or not, the money is non-refundable. The reason why this rule is set is simple. What kind of grandmaster would he be who helps everyone he meets? By doing so, he is reducing the number of guests. The man replied that it made sense and then thanked them for telling him about it. The man bowed to Zhang Xuan, saying that he was Luo Chong, and greeted him. Zhang said that he had heard that he was a skillful blacksmith. What was the problem he was facing? The man replied that lately he hasn't been able to make weapons as strong as he used to. He couldn't understand why, but he hoped for his help. Zhang asked him to show him the maximum level weapon he was currently capable of. The man pulled out a sword from his storage ring. Taking it in his hands and pulling it out of its sheath, Zhang thought about how it was an ordinary sword that didn't even require the use of spiritual techniques to create. Seeing what was wrong with it, he grinned. The man asked with a serious look, "What did the man think?" Zhang asked, letting him say something. If he wasn't mistaken, the man just likes to eat. He threw the sword at his feet. The man got angry, thinking that even if the one was a grandmaster, what right did he have to humiliate him? In any case, he is a skillful blacksmith, the head of the guild. He has a noble status. The surprised Sun Qian thought that although he had expected something like this, but this honorable person had told him about his problems, so why talk about him in such a vile manner? Besides, is it even relevant at all? Zhang calmly replied that he didn't need to get so angry or deny it. He's been eating imperial shrimp every day lately, right? The men replied that yes, he really does eat imperial shrimp often, but how is that relevant? Pouring himself some tea, Zhang replied that it was very simple. Imperial shrimp usually breed in late summer to early fall. The man again asked Master Yang without understanding, how does this affect his weapon? While thinking to himself, what does he care when those shrimps breed there? Taking his mug of tea, Zhang replied that this was why he couldn't upgrade his weapons. It has to do with the shrimp. The imperial shrimp is cultivated in cold waters. It is a product of yin energy, so it reduces the yang of the person eating it. Of course, this effect is minimal. It is almost imperceptible. However, shrimp before and after breeding are two different products. The shrimp becomes weak as it transfers the whole essence of its body to the new generation. And for defense, they secrete a so-called poison that weakens the brain. He cannot enter the state of the heart of calm water more the mind of the second Dan, can he? Moreover, he is constantly irritated, energy cannot concentrate properly, hence failure. Luo Chun thought shockingly that he really couldn't concentrate lately, and he was having a hard time with his mind's will. He wondered if the whole reason was because of the shrimp. Put it in a mug on the table, Zhang. Everything in nature has its own defense. The shrimp weakens after giving birth, but it tries to defend itself in this way, although its flavor doesn't change. The blacksmith fell to his knees, exclaiming that he understood. He will never eat imperial shrimp again. He asked Master Yang to tell him what he should do. Zhang was stumped. To himself, he thought, how would he know what to do? The library only talks about the flaws, not about fixing them. His case is different from the previous ones. There is nothing wrong with his body, he just overate the shrimp. Something needs to be addressed. He coughs and tells the man that he has to let the shrimp he caught go, and it's up to him to decide what to do with them. He needed to stop eating them, and then he would recover quickly. The man bowed low, giving his thanks. Smiling, he thought about the fact that the man just took one look at the weapon and immediately realized what was wrong. He hadn't paid that much money for nothing. It would be worth it. Still kneeling, Luo Chun asked Master Yang if he could help him with blacksmithing as well. Zhang frowned at him, and the man awkwardly scratched the back of his head and apologized for his abruptness. Zhang closed his eyes and told Sun Qian to lead their guest away. The boy walked over to the man with a smile and told him that his master wished to rest. The man asked again to forgive him. Falling back on the bed and exhaling heavily, Zhang thought about how pretending to be a grandmaster is not easy. A grandmaster who knows the tenets of all professions by heart, and has the kind of vision that can see the unseen to ordinary people. He is now on par with them only because of the library. Without it, he would quickly fall from the heavens. These grandmasters are amazing people. A person's energy is limited. He was only familiar with the profession of pharmacist, but even now, he realizes that every field requires in-depth study. He must constantly replenish the library and internalize its knowledge after all. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to use it effectively. As he moved into the library, he saw a book of some sort flying towards him. Taking the book in his hands, Zhang Huang thought to himself, why hadn't he seen this book before? It was golden, but as he flipped through it, he realized that all the pages were blank. Closing it, he decided that he would then study the rest of the books. But then the book itself opened and began to flip. The book flew up and data from the other books began to fly into it. Zhang looked at it in surprise, wondering if it was concentrating the contents of the others. But then the book slammed shut and flew downward at a tremendous speed. 2 guards were walking outside the gates of the manor. One was telling the other that he heard that the gentleman was involved in a discussion about pills, and ended up finding out that he was about to die. He had been feeling very ill lately and was already preparing for his death. The other replied to him that if the gentleman left them, the mansion would be in danger. He heard that all the influential family members were going to sell the property and move far away. Elder Chen Dan put down his brush, lifted the elevator paper, and announced that from now on, this rule must be followed by everyone. No objections will be accepted. Otherwise, they would face expulsion from the family. In front of him were gathered several elderly servants, 2 boys and a girl, who looked sadly at their master. The latter asked, "What are they grieving about? It's not that bad." Then his son came to the old man and said that they say that a grandmaster has appeared in the city. Maybe he will solve his problem. The old man asked in surprise if it was true. The guy answered him that he wasn't exactly sure, so he sent a subordinate to scout around yesterday. This grandmaster named Zhang Xuan not only solved Lin Tianyu's wife's illness, but Du Miaoshuan himself was waiting at his door. Furthermore, Du Miaoshuan came out of there after 10 minutes, and his 5th rank had increased to 7th rank in that time. And Luo Chong, the head of the blacksmith guild, also visited him and was extremely satisfied after his visit. He confirmed that there was a true grandmaster living there. The old man looked at his son excitedly, telling him to take him there soon. The boy looked at him in surprise and asked, "Right now?" He told him to sell the property urgently. Before he could finish, the man rushed off, yelling at him to sell his head. A visit to the grandmaster was the most important thing right now, right of the capitals. A man with light brown hair, a thick mustache, and a small beard who was dressed in purple robes asked why there was such a fuss. What important things had happened in the past few days? It was Elder Qian. The elderly servant held out a piece of paper to him, saying that there were 17 one-star events, 12 two-star events, and 3 3-star events in 10 days. Celestial Encyclopedia. There are many events in the kingdom, and to make them easier to analyze, they are classified according to scale and importance. 1 star is the most unimportant event. The more important it is, the more stars it has. For example, 5-star events equals an enemy invasion or a riot among the population. The man asked what was wrong with these incidents. The servant replied that the event was very recent and they had not been able to evaluate it. He asked for permission to explain the case to him. The man interestedly said he was listening. The servant began to tell him that 3 days ago a man named Zhang Xuan arrived in the capital. He called himself a grandmaster and cured Lord Lin's sick wife. The man flicked his hand, stopping the servant, and said that he had heard about it and went to the Teachers Guild to verify it. There is no grandmaster with that name in the records of the kingdom. He is most likely a rogue. This case can be given 1 star. Wiping the sweat from his face, the servant said he was afraid that if the case only involved the Lord's wife, 1 star would be enough. But last night, the head of the Du family and his heir spent a whole night at this man's door. He came in for 10 minutes, and after he came out, everyone saw his 7th rank, even though everyone knows that he only had a 5th rank before. The man was surprised that Elder Du had risen so quickly. He said that 2 stars were due then. The servant added that not long ago, Luo Chong himself, the most skillful blacksmith in the kingdom, had visited his mansion. After he left, he praised the grandmaster, saying that he was the real deal. The man wondered that since this was Luo Chun's opinion, maybe that person really is a grandmaster. He pointed 3 fingers, saying that this matter could be given 3 stars, and the servant awkwardly added that this morning, Pharmacists Guild leader Wu Yangcheng and apothecary Chen Xiao decided to visit the mansion, but they were prevented from entering by the butler, and now they were thankfully waiting for the moment when they could enter there. There wasn't a single complaint from anyone who entered there. Hearing this, the man exclaimed that this makes 5 stars. Let them write this urgently. We need to notify the emperor. The servant asked if the man was sure, and the man walking away shouted that he had just told him. Does he need to repeat himself? Such things should be written down at once. They're a waste of time. The talk in town was that even Luo Chun himself praised that man. Another replied that it seems like they were all wrong. Zhang Xuan is indeed a grandmaster. We should go meet him soon. Isn't the entrance free? It turns out that if he wants to see Master Yang, one has to pay 3 million. Someone replied that it's the right thing to do. If every passerby is going to visit the grandmaster, when will he rest? Being in poor health might not reflect well on his abilities. Zhang Huang opened his eyes and thought to himself, did he really pass out because of a book? Is the library capable of such a thing? After assuming a sitting position, he realized that he had been hit pretty hard. This book was going to be a problem in the future, wasn't it? Right there, he saw the many hieroglyphics in front of him and thought, where did so much knowledge come from in his head? At this moment, he was in the library of the Heavenly Path, and noticed that this golden book had disappeared. He thought to himself that maybe this book was turning the contents of all the books into his knowledge. When he returned to the real world, he realized that he had been lying here for a whole night. Walking out into the courtyard and pulling himself up, Zhang Huang thought about the fact that he had been screwing around all night. Time to earn some money. When Sun Qian saw his master, informed him that Pharmacist Guild leader Wu Yangcheng and Pharmacist Chen Xiao had come to see him. In fact, they had been waiting for him for about 2 hours already. Pharmacist Chen Xiao had paid 3 million. Zhang wondered, what are they doing here? But replied for them to come in. The townspeople were discussing that these 2 pharmacists who waited for so long came out after 5 minutes. Maybe they didn't find help. We need to urgently find out what problems the pharmacists were having and why they needed a grandmaster. Apparently, Chen Xiao had already managed to organize his own funeral and ordered the family members to sell their possessions. When he returned, he canceled the mourning and continued to live his life as if nothing had happened. He had a serious illness and could have died at any time. Didn't he distinguish himself with the grandmaster? Looks like they were all wrong. All this time they had been looking for his name among the 1-star masters, but maybe Master Yang is so good that he has 2 stars. Meeting the teacher in the courtyard, Wang Yin excitedly told him that Huang Yu had come to see him. She was waiting for him. Zhang asked in surprise, why is she here? All 3 guys were looking at the blonde girl in love, and the offended Zhao Yao thought about the fact that she and Wang Yin were also beautiful, right? Why aren't they gawking at them like this? Feeling awkward, Huang Yu said that she should probably wait outside. Then she cheerfully greeted Teacher Zhang. As they stood in the courtyard, Zhang Xuan asked the blonde girl if she was looking for him for something. The woman replied that she was. He was being invited to his residence by Master Lu. With sparkling eyes, Zhang asked if the latter wanted to show him the royal library. The girl awkwardly replied that not really. Master Lu wants the latter to judge her and buy sin. Zhang looked at her questioningly, and she explained that Master Lu knows that he has a deep knowledge of painting and calligraphy, so he can give a fair assessment. That was why she was urged to persuade him. Feeling dejected, Zhang thought about the fact that he doesn't even know how to hold a brush, and Master Lu wants to see him as a judge. However, he can't lose this chance. He needs to get into the royal library. Besides, during the will detector, Huang Yu helped him a lot. It seems impossible to refuse. Zhang Huang told her with a smile that he would not waste her time and asked, "When is this trial?" The girl replied that it was planned to start at noon, but the one came so late. But if they go now, they should be able to make it in time. Zhang replied that it was fine. Let her wait for a moment while he gave the order to the students. Walking down the street with the girl, Zhang Huang said that he knew that painting and calligraphy were hard to learn, and it was not easy to compete either. The girl looked at him and replied that the exam was completely thought out by Master Lu and Master Yuan Yu. She and Bai Sen don't know anything about the rules. Zhang asked, "Who is this Master Yuan Yu?" and thought to himself, "Is he an unknown doctor? What does this have to do with painting?" Huang Yu replied that he was not only a master of medicine but also of painting and calligraphy. Even Master Lu praised him. Recently he painted a painting of a Crow River, and the birds mistook it for a real landscape and flew in and started singing. "Zhang, I thought to you, what is it that this master is so skillful?" The fact that he was able to attract real birds to his painting shows his high skill. Even if he is not as good as Master Lu, he is certainly not lagging behind. The girl added that this time Master Lu didn't just invite him. The three of them would judge. Only then would the trial be fair in his opinion. Zhang replied that he understood, but he thought about the fact that there were two real masters of painting and calligraphy. He was just part of the group, so he would just go with the flow. At the gate to the manor, they were met by Chen Bo, who asked why they were gone for so long. Master Yuan Yu asks them to hurry up because he has some other plans for today. Zhang Huang apologized, explaining that Madame Huang had waited too long for him. The servant let them inside. In the living room, the masters were sitting at the table, and Prince Bai Sen was standing next to them, helping Master Zhang as he came out. Master Lu Shen cheerfully exclaimed that his little brother Zhang was finally here. Zhang said hello to him as well. Master told him that he would like to introduce him to Master Yuan Yu, his close friend, a master of painting and calligraphy, and then he pointed his hand at the guy and told Yuan Yu that this was the young man he had told him about. Even though he is young, he is as good as them at painting. Feeling awkward, Zhang Huang replied that Master Lu was too kind to him. He is just learning for now. To this, Yuan Yu replied that the master has no age. He was able to properly comprehend Master Lu's great paintings, and also pointed out their flaws. I wish there were more young people like him. Lu Shen then said that since everyone was gathered, they could begin. The two students bowed, and the teacher told them that the painting they were fighting over was just one, and he would give it to the one who passed the test. He wants to point out that he doesn't want to give it to someone who is completely ignorant of painting. And secondly, he has a terrible desire to temper their smugness and pride. However, since they are new to painting and calligraphy, it is hardly effective to ask them to write anything. So he discussed everything with Master Yuan Yu, and together they chose a method to evaluate them. The second man said that he, Master Lu, and Master Zhang would write the painting. The one who evaluates their paintings most accurately will get the prize. Hearing this, Zhang indignantly thought that they must be joking. He is just here to judge, not to paint. Who is being tested here, them or him? He doesn't even know how to hold a brush. Do they want him to paint? He looked at the men and apologized, saying that he should probably not paint. Lu Shen replied with a smile, telling him not to reject the offer. Let them at least remember the literary gatherings. To become part of the club, one must write their own poem or poems. That's the way it is here. Besides, who knows? Perhaps they could instill a love of the art in their young follower. Feeling awkward, the boy thought to himself, are they listening to him carefully? He bluntly says he can't draw and doesn't want to. They, on the other hand, are talking nonsense about interacting through painting. He says there's no need for that. Paintings from the two of them will suffice. He hasn't even prepared. Master Lu Shen told him not to worry. He would prepare everything he needed. Let him just paint as if no one was present. He turned to Huang Yu and Bai Sen, telling them to watch their movements carefully and take in what they see. Those replied with a smile that they did. And poor Zhang thought about how he can't even draw with a pencil. What a brush. If he knew what was going to happen here, he wouldn't go even on pain of death. Lu Shen motioned for his friends to start, and Brother Yuan Yu as the first guest could be the first, the one with a smile, and said, "Okay, we'll work at half strength." The master dipped his brush in the ink, stroked his beard thoughtfully, and then resolutely opened his eyes and began to make confident strokes on the canvas. A surprised Huang Yu asked if this